Let's start to drive to the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance of the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. And also take a motion to approve the minutes from March 18th.
I move to approve the minutes from March 18th.
There's a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approved. Moving on, school committee chairperson comments. I have none. So we'll move to student comments. Have our student reps, Fallon and Nina, here with us tonight.
Awesome. To start off, this week is Wellness Week. Today, we were fortunate enough to hear from a guest speaker who told his story with the central idea of mental health awareness and mental health acceptance. For the duration of this week, we'll be actively participating in wellness activities to foster more of a mindfulness throughout your schedule. And throughout this week before break, a couple of the activities we have lined up are therapy dogs, reading, coloring, mindfulness through music, painting, and so many more. Towards the end of the week, we will be visited by therapy animals in our courtyard to kick off spring break. In addition to the guest speaker today, we also had an ice cream truck come out with collaboration with Best Buddies to the courtyard. And we had the kids come up for ice cream during all 3 lunches today.
So next week will be April break, and to kick it off, we have a few field trips. Some people will be going to Italy. The music department will be taking its members to Virginia, where they will be playing a festival after recently winning a gold medal at the MICA.
That's awesome. Congratulations on the gold medal. Thanks, guys. Next up, we have the highlight of the evening. We have our Cluck Elementary School students presenting on their podcasting program.
All right, so we're so excited to be here tonight to talk about what we've been doing at Club related to podcasting. And I have 2 4th graders with me tonight and 2 3rd graders. We have Lila in 4th grade, Caleb in 3rd grade, Charlie in 3rd grade, and Logan in 4th grade. And oops, sorry. First, I just want to say that a big thank you to the Mendon-Upton Education Foundation. We wrote a grant last year and got $1,200. Which they're like, that's a lot of money. So we ordered all kinds of podcasting equipment. And they're going to talk to you a little bit more about that. And we decided that we wanted to start off sort of small. So we have a small group that has been helping us learn about podcasting and they are going to become the experts in the building to teach other kids about podcasting. So I'm going to turn it over to them to tell you about podcasting.
We first started listening to different podcasts. Some examples were debates, news, strips from kids, or interviews. We learned about different parts of podcasts. For example, there are intros, outros, and introductions. We also learned about cutting and editing. We also learned how to add in sound effects. We used a mixing board to add in sound effects like applause, questioning, and laughter. We brainstormed different topics that we could discuss on our podcast. We had to use our writing skills to plan and write out what we were going to say. Some things we brainstormed were to interview teachers, debate things like recess, This way, people with ad swing and ideas are about sharing information and making tutorials with book presentations. We use special microphones, we use headphones and have plans for a discussion. We chose to use Audacity to podcast. Audacity was pretty easy to use and learn. We had to experiment with the volume and microphones to make it sound just right. We worked to cut the blank spots and silent spaces so the conversation flowed. The plan is to share our episodes with the students and our school community.
And so we haven't actually published these episodes yet, so you are gonna be the lucky first people to hear. We actually, I think we in total have about 3 or 4 podcasts that we recorded once we realized we cut things together. So I'm gonna play some snippets for you of a couple of our episodes. And as you heard them say, they really brainstormed all kinds of things. So sometimes they interviewed teachers, sometimes they debated with each other, which was very interesting, what they debated about. Sometimes they talked about book recommendations. The list was very long about all the possibilities of what we could share. So I'm gonna play a few snippets here. So, and as they said, they learned about, you know, like having music for the intro and the outro and doing transitions. So let's see.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and this is Club Pizza. I have two very special guests today. One of them is running late, but we do have our other very special guest. Let's say your name.
Hello, my name is Ms. Griswold. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Olivia.
Welcome.
So excited to be here.
So, getting straight into the, why did you become a teacher?
Well, my whole life, even when I was like a teenager, I loved to work with kids. So I started kids, with young kids.
I'm gonna jump ahead, so you can hear, we put some other things later on in the podcast here.
Welcome to Club Speaks Up. I'm Caleb in the 3rd grade. And I'm Kylie. I'm also in 3rd grade. Do you like Rubik's Cube or origami? In my opinion, I like origami better than Rubik's Cube. What do you? I like Rubik's Cube because there's just like like steps. You mess up one, it's okay. But origami, it's not really like. Well, yes, that's
Jump ahead.
So it's always super fun because it might have been scrambled for like a really long time. You still haven't solved, but then you finally learn how to solve it. And that's really well. Sometimes if you drop the brain gets. That's what happened to my first Caleb. I threw it off my butt.
So they learned a lot about, I'm gonna play a few more clips, but they learned a lot about how it was really conversational when they were recording, that they took notes, but that it ended up being more of a conversation you were having. So I'll play a few more snippets from another one here.
Welcome to Club Speaks Up. It's me, Logan, and Lila. Today we will have special guest, Miss Linsky. She is one of our 4th grade teachers, and we're going to be interviewing her today. And we're just going to ask her a series of questions. She's going to ask us a question. And that will be it for today. Yeah. So let's get to it. Thank you for listening to Club Speaks Up. Hi, welcome to Club Speaks Up. It's Logan and Lila. Today we will have a special guest, Miss Walensky. All right, hello. So, I'm Lila. How are you doing today? We're doing good. All right, so I am another 4th grade teacher at Lab. So I know I love. I've seen you guys around a lot. Yeah. And I don't know, just you can get better than.
Yeah, skip ahead again and add.
I want to do swings because
This is the debate.
I think they'd be
Swing.
really popular and every single girl has nothing to do on the field. So it'd be amazing.
I think that we should like add a parkour wall or something.
Hardcore ball, they want to add that to the backfield.
Like jumping around and running.
Getting over things.
Yes. And I want swings only because when on the field, when we go on the field, the boys can play football and do all these sports, but girls don't really like sports and they can just use swings.
Not all my friends really want to play sports. Me and Scott we just kind of want to jump around.
So I'll stop there, but I have to say that I was super impressed with this group because they had never done anything like this before. And they very quickly got so comfortable that, I mean, Mrs. Hall, and the tech teacher and I were the ones that have been running this group. They don't even need us really. Like, I mean, they kind of come in, they do their own thing, they record, they edit, they splice it together, and they have been, it's been awesome. So we're very excited to share these first couple of episodes. So I definitely I told them that you might have questions for them and that they would definitely be able to answer them. So I will turn it over.
I have one. How long does it take you to come up with an episode?
Couple minutes. Like 2 minutes.
So are you just ad-libbing for the whole thing, or did you have a plan?
We had to like write it down on like a piece of paper. And we would just read those parts and we could add, and like, if we were like in the middle of recording and we wanted to add something, we could just say what we wanted to add.
And what if you made a mistake in the middle of recording?
You can edit it. I didn't think that's possible. No,
Yeah.
like a lot of times we like brainstorm it all together and then like we take those ideas and put them into our kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like 3 minutes to brainstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. Good job.
I have to say, I was impressed too with like when they were partnering up. They would come up with their own kind of transitions and like the debates that you heard. They had heard a couple of other podcasts that were kids debating, and so they liked that idea of being able to take sides on something and kind of go back and forth. And so we talked about how, you need to have a couple different of your reasoning so that you can kind of go back and forth with your partner, and they did such a great job with it. So the list is long of all the things I think that they want to continue to debate about.
What was it that drew you guys to podcasting in particular?
I kind of just like the idea of like documenting like when people are here. I try like when you anything.
Anybody else like?
I kind of just chose it. I kind of just did it.
I don't think anyone who's getting himself into, right?
It's fun to like you and your friends just like putting what you thought about everything out there. It was kind of just a fun.
We talked a lot about the interesting thing, the difference where if people were just gonna hear our voices and not see us. And so, that like for people to just hear us talking. And I was thinking, I meant to share the interesting fact too about you interviewed Mrs. Walensky. And Mrs. Walensky is a teacher who listens to podcasts, right? And that came up in your interview. She talked about the podcast that she likes to listen to. So she was excited to be on a podcast and she listens to so many. That's why you chose her. Okay.
I'm like,
There we go.
well, so we can interview, so we're interviewing this one.
There we go.
The reason that we chose her was so that, because she was like the only one who was there early.
She was. Yeah. Before school and she was there super early.
One of our teachers, so she does.
This is true.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even you don't even.
It's good information. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you.
We are on to community comments. We have anyone in the room that would like to speak? Not on the podcast. Anyone online with a hand up? All right. We will move on to superintendent and administrator comments.
All right. Hi, everybody. So there was a big event today. I don't know if you heard about it with the solar eclipse. So I wanted to give a little highlight to round out the day, but we decided to provide solar eclipse glasses to all of our students to take home today, based off of the timing of our high school students got out right prior to when it was the start of the eclipse. So it was nice. I was at the door when they were walking out with their glasses and looking outside. And then I was driving somewhere and saw some middle school students getting off the bus and then walking out, putting the glasses on and trying to find it out at about 3 o'clock. Was kind of nice to see that. But we sent out, we decided instead of a district email, we decided we would do school-specific emails with similar information because they wanted to send out various resources that were age appropriate and send it out to parents and families to let them know with additional resources. I talked to Jim Gorman here at the high school at the end of last week to ask him, hey, what are you doing at the high school? You know, what are some of the activities? And he helped gather some activities to send out, you know, to the district as well, which I sent out to the principals. But during the day, all over the school, there were different like science related experiments related to the solar eclipse today. They were doing data collection and comparing locations and different percentages of the totality of it. We had, what else did they mention? They talked about why you can't look at an eclipse followed by an eye dissection in anatomy, apparently. And I don't know, did you do anything in either of your classes today? No.
Besides blocking my eyes when I was actively running towards the ice cream truck.
Yes, other than
Oh,
that,
yeah.
yeah, did you do anything?
I watched a video about
Yeah,
how solar eclipse happens, or like what are the factors that make it a total solar eclipse?
Yeah.
Besides like otherwise that you'd say regular ones.
yeah, good. So I know in some cases they just watched it, you know, online just to see what it was like at the elementary in some places. And it looks like in chemistry, they did a linking to the corona color in their flame test lab. And so there were lots of different things that they did. I know Eric had asked at the previous meeting and what we would be doing. And so I made sure I found out at least some of the activities that we did. But everyone was very excited today, and it was nice to see the glasses come in time. We weren't sure if they were. When you order, you know, 2,000 glasses, we didn't really know, but they came and we got them out. So that was great. And I appreciate all the efforts that were put into making that happen. Any questions on that? All right. Also, this past week on Thursday was the National English Honor Society held its ELA night. And when I say it is one of my favorite nights, it really is. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to attend. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. And you can kind of pop into different aspects of the event, but it's a student-run event. And they always have a wide range of topics and presentations that are all outstanding. I went to a poetry reading this time. I saw one student present on her library internship. So if you go into our library media center, you should see all the displays. And she was talking about all the research and what she's learned, how to put those displays together and everything she's learned in working with the libraries. And I thought she might be good to come present here. It was awesome. I always go to the sessions on the top. Last year it was the 23 books of 23. So I showed up again for the 24 books of 24. I had read a lot of them already, but there were a couple new ones. So I always like that. We had a couple that had like poetry analysis, and some read a Dr. Seuss, and I had to figure out, you know, what the problem was in the Dr. Seuss poem that they read. And I talked to some students in the hall that had a Socratic seminar on a current book they were reading. I wasn't obviously able to get to all of them, but there was a huge range. And what I'm always so impressed is the students, when we were in that one presentations was a good example, just our NITMUC students are just incredible. You didn't need any adults to lead the discussions. All the students sitting around were just so into it and excited and inquisitive and curious and just kept asking questions of the presenter and then engaging in this larger discussion on various topics. And it was like that in every room, in every location. And all of the, English teachers were there and, helped guide them, but it's a pretty incredible night and shows what we do in the programming, strong programming that we have in the district. You were there? Did you want to add anything? I'm always putting you on the spot. Anything you liked or anything
it was really
you presented on?
fun too.
Yeah.
But so there's like something special about seeing your peers in a different light than you're used to at school.
Mhm.
Because in a regular school day, you're gonna be just, goofing off, like
Enjoying
during breaks and
learning.
lunch, during breaks and lunch, where you're like just chatting. But when you're like seeing them in their element presenting and showing what they care about, it like opens your eyes to like more layers.
That's a great point. And you saw that. Yeah, we were there.
It's perfect, man. I know all about it. The
Yeah.
characters, breakdown of every character, what the motivations were.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. So just always want to highlight that. Any questions on that? Thanks for sharing. No, all right. Just a reminder, this is always the time of year we have a lot of spring events, so I just always want to highlight them here. We have our Misco Hill Middle School Expo night. Tomorrow it's our elective showcase that we have, and that's from 6 to 8 tomorrow at Misco Hill. Always a great event, and it seems to also expand every year, just with the art that's shown and with the expansion of our wellness programming. They had different activities last year and music, and it's really great. And you can just kind of pop in and go to the different sessions. We also have the Blackstone Valley Educator Job Fair. I'm trying to think how many years we've done this now. It's probably about our 4th or 5th year that we've hosted a local educator fair. So we'll have, that's at Milford High School. We choose that just because of the location and the space. It's a larger space and easy for people to get to off the highway. But we'll be there from 4:30 to 6:30 tomorrow. And what we do is we have a great display. We'll have our tablecloth. We'll have, our Mendon-Upton swag and flyers and gear. And we bring all the new educators or prospective educators over. We talk to them, learn about them, get their resumes, and talk to them about our district. So I find it to be a very fun event. So I will be there for part of that tomorrow night as well. The multicultural night, we just want to put this on the radar because there's a lot of work going into this, and it's a really large event that we host. It will be on Thursday, May 9th. And so that's only a couple weeks after we get back from break, and that'll be 5:30 to 7:30. And we host it here at the high school, and it's really a fun celebration to celebrate the rich diversity in our school community. We are currently still seeking students, family members, community members, anyone, teachers, staff, anyone who might want to participate. We often have a wide variety of food. We have performances by our students in the auditorium. We have different activities set up. Any of our field trips, we'll highlight the field trips that we do in the district so people can learn about that. And we also have various countries and cultures represented. We're going with an Olympic theme this year, and the Spanish Immersion Advisory Board is spearheading that the planning for that event. So we've been meeting weekly to prepare for that. Anybody have questions? All the communications went out asking for the Google form, so we're looking for student volunteers. All right. Next topic, grant awards. This is the time of year when we start to find out about some of the grants that we put in for. We were selected to receive the FY25 Vacation Acceleration Academies grant for $110,000, pending final approval. That's what it said in the email. I don't know why we wouldn't get that final approval, but that's what it said. Basically, we've been notified that we've received it, and we're going to be running the program from July 8th to the 18th, and then July 22nd to August 1st. And that's for grades 1 through 8, and will take place at Misco Hill. Amanda Farley and Evan Hansen will serve as the program administrators again for that. We also, the biggest news, although that was pretty big for 110,000, we were also selected for the Innovative Career Pathways Grant for Business and Marketing. I linked in the press release there, and we're working on our own district press release right now. And when Colleen presents, she'll give you a little bit more information about that in her presentation. And that concludes my updates. Do you have any questions on any of those? Or anything I missed that you want to know more about?
Wonderful.
All right, great. So we can turn it over to Jay. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing tonight? All right, so we're going to cover 3 topics tonight. First one is the year-to-date. You had links and background notes to the last couple of months year-to-date expenditure reports. I'm just going to review a couple of things of those first. Oh, let's wait till Chris gets the pictures up. Here we go. All right, so we're going to talk about the budget year-to-date. We're going to talk about a lighting retrofit that we're working on and some of the health insurance things. So let's go forward to this. So the budget itself, we start out with a little over a $40 million budget. We've spent about 27.5 million of that. We've got about a little under 8 that's encumbered. Those encumbrances are salaries that we encumbered at the beginning of the year. Basically, we've got about $5.3 million left as of right now, as of the 31st of March. That's typical for this time of year. I went back and looked at the last 5 years. We were right in that range for all 5 years. So this is pretty normal as far as the expenditures go. Some areas of concern, just to point them out, we've had 3 major issues that have come up in the last couple of months. One is the control systems at Memorial School. I think I jinxed the school by telling you a few meetings ago that Memorial was having no issues whatsoever. The next day it all started. What this is there's a control system, a building management system that was put in on top of an antiquated system, and it doesn't work that well. We had to replace the wires running from that controller to each classroom, and then the classroom HVAC controllers and thermostats. I think we had to do about 10 rooms or 12 rooms. The cost was $37,000 to correct this, which is a lot of money, I think. Ultimately, the system needs to be replaced, but for now, this is all we can really do. There's only one company who can work on it. That's the company that installed it, and they're expensive. At Clough, the water treatment system, we're pretty much caught up, but the last thing we had to replace was the controller that basically tells the well when to fill up the potable water tank, tells things when to operate. That was the original when they built the building in 2003. We finally had to replace that. That was about a $35,000 component that we put in. The last piece is technology, contract expenses, and we did put additional money in next year, but this is related to switches and power supplies, things that broke down this year that we didn't anticipate were going to break down, so we had to replace. So those are 3 areas that we're continuing to watch. On the positive side, we've got some accounts that are doing really well. One of them is fuel at Nipmuc. As you know, we put a new boiler.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, you're good.
he's watching.
He was ready to snow already.
He's watching me over there. We put a new boiler in last year. It's exceptionally more efficient than what we anticipated, I think. So where we budgeted 153,000, we've only spent 47,000. I know we have a bill that was just sent for pays, to be paid for the last month. It's about $10,000. We'll probably have one more, but that's going to come out really well. Electricity at both Misco and Nipmuc, same thing. The net metering credits that we're getting and the cost of solar power is costing us considerably less than I think we anticipated. So that's what we're going to talk about lights a little bit of what we're going to do with some of the credits we're earning. And then, of course, nothing would be complete without a snow report. So I wanted to give you a little update on where we were with our snow removal. We spent a little less than half of what we were anticipate spending. That's a good sign. I just learned how to do this cool thing with the snowflakes there. So
With Colleen's help, I'm guessing.
that was a picture I took outside my office last Wednesday.
I'm impressed.
We spent about half, now this doesn't count the bills for last week. I'm sure we're gonna have some additional expenses, but this is gonna turn out fairly well. We did reduce this budget a little bit next year, but I'm always afraid to go too far because the minute I do, just like Memorial School, we'll end up with a lot more snow. And a nice snowstorm would be great every now and then, I think. Just not again this year.
April,
No, I think we're good.
stop
Good.
jinxing us, Jay.
All right.
You're deadly.
So as far as lights, we are looking at all of these light fixtures you see in all the buildings were replaced in 2016 with LEDs. They were originally fluorescent and incandescent bulbs. We replaced them all with LEDs. A lot of them are starting to fail. They're old. So we've spent probably $20,000 this year replacing different fixtures, but we're looking at an upgrade to replace all the interior lights in all 4 buildings with a different type of LED that runs on a smart control, which basically means that there's an app you can get and a teacher can go into their room and say the room is too bright, do something on the app and it'll bring the hue down a little bit to make it a little bit more manageable. They're new fixtures, so we're looking to do this at all 4 buildings. This is the proposal that we looked at. Overall, a company does this and they discount the price for starters. On top of that, there's a tax benefit that we're not able to get because we don't file tax returns, but they can. So they will reduce the price by that tax credit as well. The net cost for all of it is a little under $400,000 for all 4 schools, financed interest-free over 4 years. So you're looking at about $100,000 a year split between the 4 schools. Of that $100,000, we should result in savings on our electric bills of about $80,000. So all in all, this is an upgrade that we need to do because otherwise we're going to have to buy new fixtures. This looks at it, each slide tells you about each school and what the potential savings are. You know, it looks like at Clough, it's almost a 60% savings. If we go through, did I go to the next one? MISCO is about 67% in savings. So each one of them gives you a little chart that kind of shows you what the reduction is going to be. Now, so the question would be, how do we pay for this, right? So we have net metering credits on our bills right now. We haven't paid National Grid an electric bill in almost a year now. Bills are always zero because we have credits we're earning for the net metering that are more than the bills. We currently have almost $120,000 sitting on our bills right now in credits, but as of last October, it was 170. It's going to go back to that. We are just entering into the solar production time when things really go up. I have solar panels on my house. My best production is March to July until the trees get leaves. But these fields don't have any trees that block their panels like I do at my house. So we're going to produce and we're going to get back. We're going to use these credits to pay for this lighting retrograde. Over the course of time, I don't believe we're actually going to have to put any money into it because we'll spend money during the course of the year, but we have enough credits to cover the first couple of years. By then we will have earned enough to pay the next couple of years. So there may be a very minimal cost to this, but I doubt it. So that's the game plan. And then the last piece we're looking at is EV charging stations at all 4 schools. The pricing for this was more than I really want to invest from the school district. It was about $63,000, $62,000 to put them in. So we're going to work with a third party, very similar to what we did with the solar carports at MISCO. So another company will own them. They will finance them completely. They will put them in at no cost to us, and they will give us 20% of the profits that are generated from people that use the charging stations. They don't get used. They don't cost us anything. We don't get much, but if they do, we'll get a little bit of money out of them. We're going to try to put 4 at each school. It just depends on locations. You know, one of the challenges at MISCO is that we don't have a ton of parking spaces, but at the other 3 schools we do. So we're going to balance that out and see where we can go. So that's the last piece. I'm bringing this to you guys tonight mostly because I just want you to be aware and make sure that nobody says, oh my God, you can't possibly do that. Anybody want to say that? Okay. Otherwise, we're going to move forward with this. The lights would get replaced over the summer. These charging stations probably wouldn't be in until October or November. There's a whole process you have to go through to get the rebates and all that stuff.
What would you expect the lights to ban of the like LED upgrades fees? So these were put in 20.
Generally about 8 to 10 years is what you're going to get. I know, I mean, we all probably have LED bulbs in our house. After about 7 or 8 years, they start to blink a little bit and they annoy you until you put a new one in. So I think everybody kind of goes through the same thing. So I think that's probably about right. What it does replace if we do this is right now they retrofitted the fixtures we had. So there's still ballasts up there. The ballasts still tend to burn out. We're going to eliminate those completely. They're also going to be on sensors. I don't know, in some of the classrooms, there's a light sensor. So if you happen to be really still in your class, the lights go off. I don't know if that happens to any of you guys. It used to happen to me when I would go into classrooms and tune pianos. I would sit there and halfway through the room would get dark on me. So these have sensors that are built into the light. So it's not on the ceiling anymore. It's not on the wall. And they, there's on all of the lights. So they also tend to stay on. There's also probably you could eliminate the wall switch completely. I don't think we're going to do that now that we've talked about it some more, because I think there's times when a teacher might want to shut the lights off. And the switch is a pretty good way to do that.
So for the charging stations, the 62,000 is counting for the fact that we're receiving the 20%?
Well, that's what the company's going to probably have to pay to put them in. We're not going to pay that.
I see.
Right, but after the incentives and everything else, the cost to put them in is around 62. That's why, we could do that. We could invest the money ourselves. It would be a fairly long period before we actually earned our money back, but then they would generate money. We would own them. I'm not sure that putting $62,000 into EV charging parking spots right now is a good choice for us based on our financial situation.
We get 20, okay.
So the way I look at it, it's kind of similar to the carports that we put into MISCO that, or even the ground sites, we didn't pay anything for them. We don't pay for maintenance. We don't pay for anything. We just receive the benefits of them. All right. And then we'll talk about the health insurance. We've got all the information we need. I believe we'll be presenting this to the teachers probably this week, potentially. So, I've said this before, but I'll explain it again as best I can. Premiums are based on what they call loss ratio. So your loss ratio is how much they receive in premiums offset by how much they pay out for medical services. And they want to make more. They want to take in more than they're paying out. That's generally most businesses like to, make a profit. So this is over the last year what our loss ratio was. So you see when we're at 62%, 66%, that's great. 94% is higher than they really like, and certainly 153% back in May or 140% in November. Those are numbers that generate fairly large rate premium increases. They like it to be at about 88%, but we're not really there. Our cumulative over the last year is 96% right now, which is much too high. So the result of that is Harvard Pilgrim wants a 12.5% increase. Now they provided us with a potential to make it 10% if we switch our dental coverage that we offer to employees. They pay the full cost of it to Harvard's plan, but they've never had dental. Harvard has never had it before. So what I was told today is only about 50% of the doctors actually take their plan. And I have no idea what it costs yet or what it really covers compared to the plan we offer now. So I can't really say that we can commit to something like that. So I still think we have to look at 12.5% is what our potential increase is. The result of that is, on the employee side, they're going to pay about $360 a month if they have an individual HMO, $940 if you have an HMO family, $500 if you have a PPO, and almost $1,300, a little over that if you have a PPO family plan. So that's a fairly substantial increase that we'd like to try to avoid, because obviously we get hit with the same kind of increase. For us, our increases, everything cumulative is about $535,000. We've talked about this at the budget hearing. So that's what 12.5% looks like. We're looking at something through Mass Strategic Health Group, which operates on the Harvard Pilgrim Network. These are the towns that currently have shifted to it in the last year. There's other towns that are already part of it. We shifted our retirees to this program last year, but the active members are still on Harvard Pilgrim. I don't know if you can read that because I can't even read it on my screen. But this basically kind of gives you, I kind of copied this out of their presentation, sort of basically what the overview of how it works and how things function. But the bottom line is this is a group self-funded plan. So you're in a much larger pool and we basically pay the costs. It offers what's called stopgap insurance, which covers those catastrophic cases. I want to say it's anything over like $125,000 or something like that. They are mirroring our Harvard Pilgrim plan exactly. So all the co-pays remain the same, all the co-insurance payments pay the same, all the coverage remains the same. So basically, it's an identical plan with one major exception. This is the networks they run on. So Harvard Pilgrim kind of operates this whole thing. So when you're local, you're on Harvard Pilgrim's network. So nobody has to change doctors if they have Harvard Pilgrim correct right now, which if you work for us, you do. Once you leave New England, you go on to United Healthcare, which is a national plan. Between the two, you've got 1.4 million providers around the country that all cover you all over the place. The advantage to it on top of this is it eliminates the deductibles. So right now we have a deductible plan. It's $1,500 per person, $3,000 per family. And we operate through a third-party payer to cover that. So Harvard Pilgrim gets a bill, they say, no, this still applies to the deductible. They send it to HRC, they pay it. Meanwhile, our employees get bills like a month later saying, gee, you haven't paid this yet. And it's kind of a vicious cycle until HRC kicks in. And it's usually a month to 2 months behind. This eliminates all that completely. We go down to basically Harvard Pilgrim's third-party payer. The bills go directly to them, they pay it. They bill us based on the premiums at the end of the year. If it turns out our claims were way higher than our premiums, they'll make an adjustment next year, but it works within the entire pool of all the districts. So this is a very similar plan to what the towns have with Blue Cross Blue Shield through Maya. So it's a very similar type of plan. That plan, we're looking at a 6% increase, which is obviously half of a 12.5% increase, a little bit more than half. So employees would be looking at $187 as an increase from the individual plan, as opposed to $360. So those are the basic premium increases all the way across it. If you look at all employees throughout the district, right now, the employees who pay 25% of the cost spend about $1.4 million on health insurance. They're going to save $92,000 by going to this plan. Spread out. On the district side, our increase would be $256,000, so approximately half of what we're looking at with the other plan. But on top of that, we eliminate the deductible, which is $430,000. So the district, obviously we save more as a district than an individual employee is going to, but of course we pay the overwhelming majority of the costs as well, therefore. So like I said, it gets rid of the deductibles, it eliminates referrals on an HMO. So now when you go to your doctor, you have to, let's say you want to go to a specialist, you have to get a referral. You don't have to do that anymore, because as long as you stay in Harvard Pilgrim's network, which your HMO does anyway, you can just go. On the PPO side, a lot of people have PPOs because they don't want to deal with those referrals. So maybe some of them will now decide to switch to this plan. They call it an EPO plan as opposed to an HMO, exclusive provider network. Gives you access to a national network. There's also an online portal. So let's say there's a prescription that seems more expensive than you really thought it should be. You can buy it through an online Canadian pharmacy. We'll have a direct login for our district, and you can order it, it'll get delivered to your house. Because a lot of times you can get drugs through Canada for a lot less. Other than that, everything stays the same. So I see some positives to this and some additional benefits to the plan. Obviously, we have to negotiate it with the Teachers Association, and that's probably our next step. And that's the end of my show. Does anybody have questions? I tried to go through that quickly.
On the slide where you have you have Harvard Pilgrim and United Healthcare, what did you mean by that slide? Presenting them both side by side there.
Well, so that's the two networks that this operates on.
Oh, so both networks that operates.
Yes, but when you're in New England, so Harvard Pilgrim really covers
I
like,
know what you mean.
Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine.
So the implication by the slide is that we're going from one to the other, and I think you just make that out.
Oh, no.
When you look at it, it doesn't seem clear.
Right,
You know,
right.
the advantage is you're actually adding this expanded network.
In-network
that you put in
care.
that.
Yeah, in-network care through Harvard Pilgrim and United Healthcare.
So
It's all in.
So it's not like an HMO style, you aren't forced, you have your health problems at home, you can have your health problems anywhere.
Right. If you're traveling, you're covered. If you have some people have a PPO because they have a college age student that's in Virginia, they will be covered under this plan, under the EPO plan. So they don't need to do the PPO anymore.
So I just wanted to make that clear. It's an
Yeah.
expansion of coverage.
And the whole thing is run by Harvard Pilgrim, which is the advantage we have, because I think our employees are used to Harvard Pilgrim. It's a good plan. I mean, we have a really good plan, but it's getting very expensive. Anything else? Okay. Take this show on the road too.
Right, next up, we have Colleen, who's gonna give us an update of all the good stuff happening.
I on the tab so you wouldn't have to see them all.
Okay.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about is what's coming up is on May 17th, we are taking students from Nipmuc and MISCO to the 1-8 Foundation showcase. They went last year, we're going again this year. MISCO has 3 teams from robotics class, from a project-based learning group, actually volleyball that was presented last meeting, or a couple of meetings ago. And we have some students here from Sandy Bozic's class. They're in competition right now to see who exactly is going to be going, but we are planning on heading out to do that, and that's going to be at the new Reebok Center in Boston, so that should be pretty fun. We are also doing a lot more with Project Lead the Way, and trying to expand it, especially in elementary school. This year, Katie Dunton got trained in Project Lead the Way at Memorial, and Jen Hall last month got trained at Clough in order to be able to train the other teachers. So we're working on a plan to make sure that we can do that. And both schools have been trying out different modules, especially in Memorial. A lot of different grades got trained with Katie after she did. So they immediately were able to start to implement some of those. And now we want to figure out that each of the schools are going to do the same one. So now that we've played around, picked out the different modules, tried them out in each of the schools, we're going to make sure they're aligned for next year and they're using what they're supposed to. And I've been talking with Project Lead the Way and Lauren LaJoy here at MISCO, who's the department head for science, about expanding it in 5th grade and getting training as well. So what you're seeing is some of the pictures of robotics. They did a roller coaster event earlier in the year. It's another just work on that. And I thought I would bring this in. This is Ms. Baratha and Lauren Chuk. Lauren got trained as part of Katie's training, and then she went in and taught in Ms. Baratha's class, in Brittany's class for the 2nd graders, how to do it. That way Brittany got to see how the lesson was done and incorporating, and then the 2 of them really have been working. So what you're seeing in the bottom, and I just added those today because Brittany just gave me those, are some of the projects that they had to do, and I thought it was really cute. And thought I would share with you what they did after the projects is they did some interviewing. So the kids were given a problem of coming up with, well, actually, I'll let you listen. It's one of the interviews.
What was the problem you were trying to solve? We were trying to solve that 3 kids had a popsicle and they didn't want it to melt, so we tried to make coolers for them. What did you do to solve the problem? We made like coolers out of like trash and stuff. What was the biggest strength of your prototype? The biggest strength was probably this little door because we wouldn't have, because this wasn't really open that well, and when they were like our popsicles, we put them in here so then it was easier instead of just like putting them in here. What was the weakness of your prototype? How would you change it for next time? We could have did was add the foam and then put them like on here, so then we can carry it and like put it, like fold it and stuff. What was your favorite part of this unit? Probably making it.
So what the kids did is they asked the same questions, they interviewed each of the students, and it was great to hear what the kids had to say. They really did some thinking. Brittany she was lovely. She just sent this to me tonight. These are some of the pictures from the whole experience. She said she was more impressed by the deeper learning and the critical thinking that was going on with the students. She said she did things with them that she would do in one-off situations like measuring or taking a temperature, but having them have the practicality right there and being able to do it, and then doing some comparisons and some studies. So she thought for something like this, it was nice to see just the benefits. And I thought it was a good thing to share because you can really see why we really want to continue to pursue Project Lead the Way, especially for our science and technology, actually. The next thing I wanted to share was that Mr. Como and myself and Sam actually O'Neill did some presentations with 5th and 6th grade to just review the importance of digital citizenship and acceptable use. We made it very interactive, brought the kids into the auditorium and asked them different questions and putting them through a few scenarios while we were trying to teach them the importance of really taking care of their device, but also being appropriate with the device and the way that they use it and communicate with each other. So I think it was a good way to step back. Teachers had some concerns. We had some concerns about what the kids were, emailing each other or doing on the device. So we wanted to step back and re-educate. So it was a good opportunity to do that. And we've been looking at our libraries. So MISCO has gone through a big change already. Some of the pictures that you can see on the right is actually a student in there. We've had a couple students come in and help to take apart the library, and we're in the process of really improving that. But with that, we've had Amy Townsley, who's the library media specialist here, helping with that, with the parents and redesign and making sure that we're doing it properly. And she's done some incredible things in the library here. She and I and 2 student interns, one that Dr. Cohen talked about, are going to meet them on Wednesday to check out their library so we can get a feel of other things that we can add here in MLEC and at MISCO to make them even better student spaces. So that will be exciting. We also had the Mendon Public Librarian come in and offer some advice. So we've had a lot of people really helping us to revamp these in a positive light.
And I can just add, because I'm always checking out our progress. So we've moved the shelves over into a different kind of configuration, removed part of the main desk so there's more room, and we're looking to have a larger space in one section for a class that is a little bit larger than how it was in the middle. And once we get all of the books back up and then resorted, then we'll look at our library budget that we have for, having displays and newer books coming into the library. But right now it's kind of reconfiguring it as well. It's in process.
And the PTO has been very generous and said that they'll be happy to order some new books for us when we're ready. So it's happening. So it's nice to see the transformation. So the other thing I wanted to mention is some grants that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Why need them?
I put it out to my listserv, and some friends had mentioned on the Cape, but I figured that was a little bit of a hard drive. So when Needham came up, and they came to visit us during the Inspired Learning Day, so we did a little trade. So we get to go to Needham. It's a friend of mine who is the technology director, so he opened the library to us. It's a good question. Innovation Career Pathways, as you know, we did receive the second grant. This one is for business and finance. Just on April 4th, we got the announcement, 36 schools received the Innovation Career Pathways grant. And there was a great team that came together to put it together. Tara Bennett doing a bulk of some of the work and leading this. And what you see is Brian Kelly is one of the teachers in business there on the side. We also had Amy Townsley, Brian Kelly, Jamie Caparelli, Tara, Kendra Swenson, Lauren Plant, just making sure I get everybody, John Clemens, Mary Ann, Miranda, and myself that were involved in the actual process. And we have some great career partners, so looking forward to seeing that unroll next year. And we've already started some of the work. And then we are also in the works of talking about possibly adding biomedical. And when I spoke to Susie Snow from Project Lead the Way, she also had some advice about some of the grants that might be available to help start that off to get us in the right direction. So we're moving forward, some great things happening. Cybersecurity awareness. We applied for the participation in the Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Grant Program. This is through the state. We haven't heard yet, but what this will do is provide phishing simulations to staff. It was done before a few years back. They've revamped the whole thing and made it even better, but so we'll be able to put out teaching modules that folks will be able to take, and that's everyone, yourselves included. So everyone is educated as well as the phishing simulations to get the feeling of what it's like and know what to look for if there's an issue. So hopefully we get that.
And I can add to
Yeah.
that because I did do all the modules because when we had that first round, because I knew if our staff, if everyone was doing it, I wanted to make sure I was doing it. One of the first people to kind of see what it was like. And, you know, some of them were a little bit longer. I also did them all in like a giant grouping of time. They trained me. I got better. I mean, I thought I knew the basics, but was able to catch stuff after. I said, I've learned this in the module. I know that's a phishing email or that's that. And it's because you're in a simulation. And so you make a choice and then there's an outcome of your choices for a lot of them. And so I actually found it to be helpful.
Good, I'm glad, because it is.
Not that everyone's like, oh, I'm totally excited to take the cybersecurity awareness module, but I learned a lot and have avoided, especially in my role, like, you know, avoided situations too, when people try to kind of get at our emails or send things out to us.
Also think it's helpful for home use too.
Yeah.
So it's not just school, so
That's
you can be
true.
aware
Yeah.
everywhere. So you're protecting your home information as
Yeah.
well as your work information.
Would that be open to, so it's open to staff, students?
Not students, it
Yeah,
is
it's meant
staff,
for- yeah.
all staff.
Yeah.
Like I said, school committee will be included in that. That's typically how it's done. So every person that works here can take advantage.
I will say though, I was in Britt Kaler's class one time and she was teaching her students about phishing emails. And so I was walking around and said, well, tell me, you know what? And she had all these sample emails and they were able to analyze and identify. So they were using the skills that were similar to what, it wasn't a simulation, but they were going through and identifying and kind of, it was part of the curriculum that we had at the middle school, which was nice.
Yeah, she teaches a digital citizenship class, which is great. The newest thing actually just got certified as a certified cybersecurity rubric evaluator. So I went to a conference last month through the Massachusetts Educational Technology Administration, Meta. I can never remember the acronym, what it stands for. And I was able to get a free course and training to become an evaluator. So what that means is that I can use the rubric that I was given through the course to evaluate our system and anybody else's. So using that evaluator, it's educational technology directors from across the United States who came together and put this thing together. And then they're offering a course for folks to get trained so you can help your school evaluate your system. So I just got it this week, so I was kind of excited about that. And we also, Joe actually applied to the Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Grant as which is a different one than the one before. It's a K-12. I just realized that I changed it. It's a K-12 safety grant. It is to get multi-factor authentication available for all staff, probably students as well, but we'll start with administration and then staff. So we'll have something like what they call a UBQ key, and it goes into your computer, or a number for those of you who do it probably with your banking and other things or your own personal device. You get a text, so it will help to secure all of the information and who has access. It's one of the first and most important lines of defense. So I describe it to teachers as it's like locking your door. They can still get in, but it does put a wall of prevention, so it helps to keep out some folks. And then just to lastly, to let you know that the next Inspired Learning Day is coming on June 10th, and we're starting to plan for that, and hopefully you can come through the schools and see what's happening. Any questions?
So quick on the business and finance pathways, can you just kind of give like a little bit in terms of what that looks like for next year? Are there classes that will there be new classes next year, and how does that work with scheduling, since I know a lot of students have already take their classes for next year, so what does that look like?
Great question. Within, we're gonna be adding as they go. We have added evaluations or certifications, like Microsoft is going to be a certification. There's some other Google certifications that are specific to the business, but that will be part of their classes, the marketing classes. So they're changing around some of their current curriculum to meet it, and then we'll add as we move forward some of the classes to build that in. And DECA is part of it as well. So it's bringing kind of everything in together, and then we grow. And that's how the money helps us, is to make those, take those opportunities to grow it and give them training, the educators training, and to add in different things.
And part of it is you're required to, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're required to have community partners as well. So when we were doing it for computer science, we partnered with a few, local companies in order to support our work. The same thing for this as well. And so they have, for the first students that sign up would be taking, these pathways of courses. Eventually, we may have the need of, we may need staffing in the future.
Yes.
Not right away, but in the future, if we're adding other layers of coursework down the road. But it builds out, and then they come out with the certifications from the various courses.
We had to have certain technical courses. That's where the Microsoft certification will come in, and the business marketing classes. So we had that. So we added like the certification and some of the other things just for the basic training or basic requirements for the grant, I should say. But Dean Bank is one of the partnerships. Of course, the Blackstone Valley Hub was super helpful in Mass Hire and in the whole process. Dean Bank was great about being a partnership, and Tara also secured SVP marketing and communications so that it's a little more diverse. So you're not just doing finance, you're getting the marketing piece as well and the banking. So, and we'll add different partners as we go.
So once we get it up and running, they'll come up, you'll hear about it all next year.
Yeah.
I'm sure, but we'll have updates once we know how many people are registered and, the coursework and.
So I'm sorry, is this Innovation Pathways or Project Lead the Way? Which one?
This is
No, Innovation Pathways.
Yeah.
When I mentioned Project Lead the Way, that is for the biomedical. Sometimes what they do with Project Lead the Way, the 1A Foundation, Project Lead the Way kind of supports adding courses or providing grants to get you started in some of those smaller areas so that you can meet the guidelines for the grants. So they have an incredible biomedical, I think she said it was up to $75,000, where we can, she being Susie Snow from Project Lead the Way, where we can use that to add courses to even apply. So that's a good start.
I don't know how that's driven by the foundation or whatever, but they're starting to advertise. Like I've seen them on TV now.
Cool.
Project Lead the Way.
Oh, Project Lead the
Yeah.
I
Way.
mean, it's starting.
I mean, they've been around for a while, yeah.
And it's across the country. I know friends in New York State have got that run. So it's like.
We have a pretty heavy base out of, like WPI supports it pretty heavily, and Mass STEM Hub, and, but yeah, there's that national network that comes along with it as well.
I mean, it's such a cool program. The thing I want to make sure we are aware of is if they have any sort of backing off of support, they back off of support. They could be exposed in the programs we've been delivering to the kids for a while. But that doesn't look like that's anywhere in the future.
Well, I mean, it does roll into our budget eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why for the classes that we had at the middle school, for example, we looked closely at what was the right fit. because that's, we started at the middle school. So what's the right fit for what our needs are, but also what wouldn't require a heavy influx of like consumables every single year. And so you can look at the courses and see, this is how much you need to spend in one course, and this is another one. The high school is always it's a bigger investment. There's certifications that come out of that. You know, we do work closely with 1-8 Foundation and a lot of support of our work, which helps us in building out some. So we do need to sometimes make that investment, or like with computer science, we have to invest in
understood.
computers and.
As a suggestion, it would be a good idea to have a backup plan if the funding ever went away. I'm not saying we need this like immediately or anything. It's not that, but just have an understanding so that we know that we can back up the support for the kids on these programs if that funding goes away.
And it,
'Cause it looks
absolutely it can, and
Yeah.
it does, you know, it does go into our operating budget after the grant comes to an end. MISCO really has come to an end, but when I contacted them about fifth grade really wanting the training and wanting to add that to their science courses, I was told, you know, there might be some money at the end of the year, but
Yeah.
if not, apply in the fall and then we'll
Right.
get something in December. So there is funding, but it is only for a period of time. I think it's 3 years.
Yeah.
And once that's done, you have to either add it to your operations budget or you don't offer it. So
So
but
getting
they
a good
try to keep
picture
it
of that,
going.
that would be a very good thing to get
Yeah.
a good picture of.
Yeah, and part of that long-term planning too, you know, it also relates to your staffing, right? Because you need to have project lead the bay. In order to run the course, they have to be trained.
Yeah.
And so that's also, you know, that commitment. And if we suddenly didn't have trained, you know, teachers in a couple of years or whatever, then, you know, we might not be able to offer it. But so far it's been going, I mean, we've had it for, I think we started it before COVID, like at the middle school. So and then it's going well at the elementary as we slowly, and those are much, just so you know, the elementary, those are launched. Those are much smaller modules. They don't require as much for resources. You know, those are just 10-hour units, and it's a little bit more for the middle school, and then the high school, it's a full curriculum. So that's a bigger commitment if we go all in on a project lead the way course. We're careful.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. For new business, we have a field trip request.
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple request that I linked in there from one of our network science teachers, Lisa Michael. They're going to be participating in environmental science community service project and it's a beach cleanup in Rhode Island. And so they just need, because it's out of state, a motion vote to approve the trip.
That's right.
Second.
Favor?
Aye. Thanks, Lisa.
Pretty.
Did you want to say anything about it?
The students will be really excited. There are 4 of them in AP Environmental Science this year. And the way the course was run, they haven't been able to do really any outside activities. And they were really excited to be able to do a community service project outside of school after they're done with their AP exam. It's kind of the way to finalize and finish out this course. So they will be very excited at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward.
Great. So next up is school choice affirmation.
So every year, by law, we have to determine if we're going to remain as a school choice district or not. And by June 1st, so I figured I'd bring it forward now, especially because we just launched the applications online, which is a new process this year. So we've already received, I don't know, 50 to 60 applications for the district, which is a lot more than we've had. Obviously, we won't be filling all of those. That's a lot more than we typically would have for numbers, but I figured the sooner that we are able to communicate out the information, just people will kind of know their status. But the first step is to, reaffirm as a district, so that would take, motion and vote for that. And then what I will do over the course of this month is to work with the schools and look at our enrollment and class sizes and, especially kindergarten enrollment coming in and see where we might be landing. We usually identify the number of spots open at the end of this year, and then we kind of close it, and then we take a look right before next year as well, and see if they were filled or not filled. All right.
Motion to reaffirm our school choice, our school district as a school choice district.
Second,
Is there a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Lastly, we have golden apple planning. So had nominations forms sent out last year in April to be received by mid-May. So in terms of determining a timeline for what we'll do this year, if we want to kind of follow the same timeline, would mean that forms be going out by the end of this month. And then the proposed deadline would be mid-May, and then having the committee meet to review those of us who are on the golden apple. With the awards to be presented in June. Yes, all, I don't actually know if it's everyone or not. but-
It's open to everyone.
Yes.
That's how you decided. So whenever we have that meeting, whoever comes. Decide, but I just wanted to put forward that timeline. So then if you are comfortable with that, then instead of having a separate meeting to decide on that, then I can just get that form together and get it ready to go out in a week or so. Probably right after break.
Sounds good to me.
Worked well last year.
Change anything?
Are there any changes that need to happen to the form from last year, or can we just?
It's mostly just making a copy of it. I didn't see anything that seemed to be a change. I think it worked pretty well last year. But if you want to look at last year's and have any suggestions, you can let me know too.
No, I remember it working really well.
On to subcommittee updates. Capital planning, Jim's not here. Jim.
and I think I'm the only member of the second committee who's here tonight. So yeah, we haven't had a meeting in a little while. Our next scheduled meeting is May 8th. In the meantime, I know Dr. Cohen and Jay have submitted the statement of interest to MSBA for next roof replacement. And that any other updates can be found on our website.
Budget.
Yeah, we had our March 18th open budget hearing. It was very, very good. I think it was presented very well by our superintendent and finance director. We laid out all the proposals. Everything is moving forward. The only update really is to understand that the House budget is supposed to be released on April 10th, which would have an impact to us. We can't certify any higher in the future, but we can certify lower. So hopefully we'll catch a break with the state and get a little bit of a benefit there. But we'll have additional budget subcommittee meetings if necessary. But right now, we're pretty much done for the rest of the year, unless there's something crucial that comes up.
I will take the next two. So for policy, we met prior to this meeting. We looked at the wellness policy. So there's a link in the background notes to the to that policy for a first reading for you all to take a look at.
Preview shot, the rest of us.
That's right. And for those of us who are not here tonight, who are
Yeah, it's not just me.
So we also looked at a couple of our B policies, BEE, special procedures for conducting hearings. So, which is linked in, there was one minor change. So we're recommending waiving first reading and voting on that one tonight. And you can see there was just one bullet point that we removed to align with the MASC proposed policy, and it was just regarding a person being a subject of hearing, which is just not something that's likely to happen, so there's no reason for that in there. So
Cool.
I move to approve the updated policy BEE, special procedures for conducting hearings.
Second,
discussion. The person's looking at-
there is, oh, right,
Good.
you're spelling there right.
We try.
You're welcome.
My copy editing back.
Thank you for the thoughtful comment.
I dug deep for that.
Yeah, exactly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And the other policy we looked at was BG's policy development. We reviewed that and there were no changes, so nothing to do there. And then I will jump to negotiations. So negotiations subcommittee met with MURSD on March 25th and April 4th. Next scheduled meetings are this Wednesday, April 10th, and then Monday, May 6th. Negotiations also taking place with custodians, administrative assistants, food service, and paraprofessionals, AV techs over the last month. And lastly, superintendent evaluation.
And we should anticipate getting our end of the year update on goals at our next school committee meeting, which is the 29th of April. Following shortly thereafter, we will be receiving directions on how to submit our own evaluation forms due by May 8th. And we're all going to do those early this year so that we're not at midnight the night before trying to consolidate them. The final presentation of the evaluation will take place at May 13th meeting.
Are there any other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of posting the meeting? Future agenda items, we have SEL data, superintendent evaluation, class rank, collective bargaining, and district goals. And with that, we'll move to
Take a motion for executive session.
yeah, move to executive session for section number 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair declares.
So moved.
Second.
And then
Roll
We're
call.
only returned
Jonathan's not.
to adjourn. I didn't put it in there, but
Yeah.
only return to.
We,
Yeah, we will
Open
not, the
session.
committee will not return to open session.
Sean Nichols not. We have to.
Vicky Nettles and I.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Matt Hagan, aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Roll call for that.
No,
We do that
we do that after.
Okay, good.